Welcome to today's episode of the Better Podcast. I'm Nicholas Ayers.
I'm Preston Schmidley.
On a delay. And today we have Jason Cass from the great state, the land of Lincoln, Illinois.
That's me.
And we are going to start on our mark. Ready? Mark.
Flavor.
Yeah, boy.
Hey, yo, check 1, 2. This is Flavor Flav in the building for the Better Agency. Nicholas wants everyone to know how they need to listen to the truth that Nick and Preston are giving them. Flavor Flav's got y'all out right now. You heard me? So hold it down and keep making it a better agency. Alright?
Jason Cass, welcome to the Better Podcast.
What's up, dude?
Now,
Dudes.
you are kind of the you're the pioneer. You're the big kahuna when it comes to podcasting. You were the first person, I think, to really have. I don't. Is there anybody who started a podcast when you started a podcast?
There probably was. I was just thinking about this the other day. There probably was, and I think if you ask Hanley, I think he would probably say his started first, but I really don't know whose did.
But his hasn't been consistent like yours has been consistent.
Yeah, Mr. Consistency here. That is the last thing that you would ever associate with Jason Cass, but that is a true statement right there.
But yeah, you haven't had any. I mean, he's had probably different iterations, but you've had the same thing for years.
Thing. Yeah, and I added, so it was Agents Influence, and now it's Agency Intelligence, two different podcasts. One speaking to people outside the agency. Agency Intelligence speaks to people just in the agency.
Yeah. Now, I think you're an interesting person to have on the Better Podcast, and I think you're an interesting voice in our industry. So I want to fire off a question to you that I think is kind of the 30,000 foot view question. I'm just kind of curious on your perspective of this. But as you see where the insurance industry is in 2021, right? We're recording this in 2020, but that's going to come out likely, if not at the end of this year, but forecasting here. Where do you see the independent insurance industry? Or do you see it as a distribution channel here in the next 12, 24, 36 months? What is your forecast for our industry?
Okay, that's a great question. First of all, because I have done podcasting a long time, it would be of your best interest to put me as soon as you can, because then it's going to start building up subscribers and then it'll help the rest of the year. I'm just trying to tell you.
Fair enough. You know, if we're going to take advice from anybody, it might as well be the great Jason Cass.
The next 24 to 36 months actually are going to be a lot like they are right now. I think we're living in this time. I've said this the other day, but heck, that podcast won't be out for a while. Say it right now that I believe like AD and BC, right? Before and after Christ. I believe looking back in the 90s and in the 2000s, early 10s, I believe we're going to look 500 to 1,000 years. You're going to look back and go, holy cow, right then, that's when it happened. Like you can see before 1995 when they had to make their own decisions on their own. And then there's after 1995 when machines started helping us make decisions and started living. That's going to be the separation time. Why do I say that? Because we're kind of like, we're like Zig Ziglar says, if you take a frog and drop them in water, they'll jump right out. But if you leave them in the water and slightly warm and you turn it up real slowly, they'll cook themselves to death. The reason is right now we're not cooking ourselves to death, but we don't really realize that the water is getting really, really hot. So I say that to say that in 24 to 36 months, we're going to still kind of feel like a lot of things are just moving fast. I have to say that in 2010, I mean, from 2010 to I'm going to say 18, from 2018 to the last 2 years have moved those prior 10. I mean, they move so much faster. It's been unbelievable. Behavioral data, some of the stuff that you know about. Machines are actually starting to work together. Better Agency is having conversations with AMS systems. I know that seems simple, and everybody who's watching may be like, well, Nick and Preston, they need to get going faster. No, and 5 years ago, they weren't even having that conversation because the carriers were like, nah, Nick, nah, Preston, we're not doing that, guys. I mean, no. API, most people didn't even know what that is, you know? So to answer that question, I think you're going to see a lot of what we see right now. We're going to see a lot of systems that are going to start working together, and they're going to be forced to because of the data transfer that's needed.
So, okay. So systems are going to start working together. There's going to be a lot more connectivity. What would be your suggestion to the independent agent who's out there, whether they're in California, Washington, Florida, Texas, Maine, wherever? What would be your suggestion to them in order to prep or in order to get ready or to start that process? What do they need to do?
Well, that is a great question, and there's a lot of answers.
Thank you.
It happens.
I only ask great questions.
Yeah. When you ask a lot every once in a while, one of them's going to stick, man. So anyways, here's the deal. Everybody's got their own thing. I hear my boy Bogus Hansel says it all the time about AMS systems. Use the one that's best for you, right? And in this situation, use the scenario that's best for you, because there's going to be a lot of different options that you can choose. But data transfer is going to be the separator. Data transfer is going to be the difference of how you are going to keep and retain good employees, right? Because me, by knowing the data of my employees, is going to allow me to be able to create a better experience for internal and external of my office. Now, when I start trying to create a better experience using data, what's going to happen is I'm going to be able to pay the best, and the people who are really bad in my office are going to show through because the data is going to prove it, and they're going to leave my office. And the people who are losing the good talent to me, because I'm finding the people who are data miners, and that could go a million different ways, that's going to help the talent. I say this a lot. It won't be the customer that puts you out of business. It's going to be your own staff in your own company that's going to put you out of business, because you've got to be able to evolve in that. Data is going to help me be able to outmarket people better, because I'm going to be able to make better decisions and know when people are trying to access data, or whenever they're needing something, or whenever they have a problem and they need a solution. We're going to be able to be there. Sometimes it's just not what people are expecting, but it's what they're unexpecting. I think this is huge, being able to know what people need before they know what they need. That's a ginormous piece of thing that can happen. So the first thing that you can do is we've got to start cleaning up our data, and we've got to start understanding what our data looks like. One of the things that we've done is we've transferred from QQ over to Salesforce, and we're on the Neon thing. You have many other agencies coming on from Epic, Applied, Vertifor, EasyLinks. And there's one thing I'm starting to see. The reason why no one can get their data to work in their management system, guys, is because no one has the data in there correctly. And Jason, well, that's a big moment. No. The AMS companies don't even know how the data should go in there. Because when you pull the data out and you put it into some kind of structure that helps you get the reports and helps you line out the things you need, all of a sudden you'll start realizing like, wow, no one told me that was supposed to go there. I'm talking big time agencies who have spent thousands of dollars on data and have the people and the smarts. It just wasn't done correctly. And so all that stuff, it's a perfect storm right now. And it's a tough question to answer, but just remember this: data is going to change everything. I can bring it into every conversation and every question you ask.
Well, I think the a lot of agents, that those words get thrown around a lot. And I think it's a very complex statement for a lot of people, because, well, what does that mean? And I think to break that down to its simplest form is it's leverage, right? You're able to make the maximum. You're able to make the maximum positive effort with the minimal negative impact. And
Love
so that allows you, if you have good data, and this is something I've actually noticed, a lot of people don't know, we call this data hygiene, but a lot of people don't know that even when you get it from like Ivans, for instance, and I don't know if this is the fault of the carrier or Ivans or whatever, but like a renter's policy from Safeco, this is just one instance, downloads as a homeowner's policy, right? So now it makes it very hard for you just in that one instance, if you're a personal lines carrier, if you don't know the difference between your renter's policies and your homeowner's policies, because they blur somewhere, they kind of get, smashed together and just thrown through the data channels. And that obviously, that's one instance, but you have, probably 50 to 100 of those throughout your agency. And that by itself, without you doing anything wrong, makes it difficult to accurately track what you're doing in your agency. And that's just one metric, and so then there's the human error element of that, where people get lazy, they don't leave, they don't enter the right information, they don't do what they need to do. And I will vouch for that. I mean, obviously there's a level where you can't use data if it's not good. I mean, you can, but the less clean it is and the less accurate it is, the more you're making assumptions and guesses, and you could make the absolute wrong decision from what you might be able to pull from a report that isn't accurate. And
That's
so it's a guesstimate at best. So I will agree with that. It's a weird place we've gone, because we're, there's an element to insurance which makes sense. I have some friends that do a lot of risk modeling and stuff on the underwriting side, and they're doing some cool startups that I think will do really well. And so technology obviously is changing the way that that's done, the landscape of how we actually predict risk and hazards and things like that. That's going to be awesome, because that's another side of the coin that we can't control. But if carriers can, obviously they're going to be able to, accurately model what they need to charge in premium, not based on things like an early effective discount or whatever. It's going to be based on actual behavioral data from the prospect side, right? So there's going to be such stuff on that side of the coin that agents don't directly influence, but will influence our life. And then there's the side where we can have, because we're field underwriters, there's the side where we can have some influence on how we track our prospects and our clients, and then that we use that to find out, because that's one thing that you mentioned, just a simple win that an agent could have if they had clean data is they can know the type of ideal client in their agency, or their most profitable type of client in agency. This is one small win an agency could have, where if an agency knew, because they had clean data, what segment of the population, male, female, what age bracket, right? What kind of jobs they have, where they live, zip codes, things like that. You can get very granular on who you should or potentially shouldn't be targeting. And it makes it a lot easier to win a client if I don't like the price sell. I came from captive side, so I had to sell on value. I'm used to that it's a much more preferred flow for me. But when once that it's a lay down sale price wise, because the person as a carrier, you almost always dominate. They're in a zip code, you almost always dominate. They start to have all these metrics that are in your favor. Well, why play the game on hard when you have the cheat code, right? And so that's kind of the thing there, where data definitely does help you, and you can definitely win without it. But man, it makes life harder.
Think about how naive and silly we are as business people, as humans, as agency owners, that we think that we're smarter than something else. We say, that's not what my customer wants. My customer is not that type of person. I know who my customer is. They don't like texting. They don't like e-signatures, or maybe they do, or all my people like texting, whatever it could possibly be. It's funny to think that we have had a conversation with a person for maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes, went to our computer, did about 10 or 15 quotes, came back, called the person, had another 10 or 15 minute conversation with them. They download into our system, and all of a sudden I know everything about them, not the other million data points that are out there that are saying, hey, guess what? This person's kind of like this. Our management systems very soon, Better Agency very soon will have it to where when you pop open your thing in the morning, it will show you, here's the 10 most likely clients to leave you. And it's not, Mr. Agent or Mrs. Agent, what you did. It's because of who they are. That's what it is. Overnight, they changed. Things have happened. Their lives have changed. They're doing different things out there. And now that's impacting their life, which we're trying to let you know is probably going to impact how you're going to sell them things, or how you need to sell them things. Sure. A 27-year-old girl actually does need accident forgiveness. And if she does have the mobile app that for the DriveWise or whatever you want to call it, statistics have shown that people around her age, in her city, in her zip code, her friends have these same type of features. So not only can you lean on that to say, hey, your friends probably have that, but it's also seen as an advantage to her. These are things that we don't know about. We never could know about that. But there's a billion data points out there that could be telling us this stuff. We have to stop thinking that we know everything, because from here on forward, machines know a lot more than we ever will.
I think you bring up a good point. And I think one of the reasons why I think you and I connect so well is because I think you and I, we think a lot alike in a lot of situations, but I also think that whether we're sitting down and having lunch, or we're on Facebook Messenger, or we're on a podcast, we can sometimes push against each other on thoughts and ideas that we have and try to draw out an even better idea.
This sounds like a sandwich method.
Absolutely.
And so
now here's the bomb.
No. But I do think, because I think this is where things get lost in translation with a lot of people in our industry. We say these things. We have to have data. We have to know our data. And I think nobody in their right mind says, well, that's dumb. I don't agree with that.
Right.
I think here's the problem is sometimes I think data gets mystified too much, and that we don't bring it down into simple, practical terms. Here's the thing, and I know you know this after speaking to thousands of agents. Most agents, I don't know, maybe 80+% of our workforce, our industry force, they are not equipped for this stuff in 2021. They're not equipped for it. They don't. Most people are an agency owners who are running between 1 and call it 7 people on their team, between CSR, salespeople, VAs, however you want to label it. They're spinning 1,000 plates already. They've got to be this to this person, this to that person. They've got to do this task, that task. They've got to learn this skill. And running an agency has evolved so much. I remember within the last 24 months and in that time frame, a lot of talk is that the next hire an agency should make is an in-house marketer. And I agree with that. I think that is a smart hire. The problem is, and the reason you do that is because the agency owner, the principal, doesn't have the time, the bandwidth, the energy to also have to learn that very unique skill set. And so you hire it out. And what happened was agency owners were hiring these interns or people out of community college or whatever, and people who really didn't know anything about marketing, and they were slapping the marketer label on them, and they were getting essentially the same type of results. People were having to learn on the job. It wasn't what you think in your brain. Oh, I'll just hire an in-house marketing person. And so when I hear people talk about you've got to know your data, you've got to know all the, and when we say data, let's just call it really what it is: information. However you want to call it, information, analytics, knowing situational analytics on what happens, if this, then that type situations. What happens is most agency owners aren't equipped for that, not just from a bandwidth in their brain standpoint, but from just a time. Like, I don't have the time to learn it. I don't have the time to understand it. And so when I hear people talk about they need to know data, I say, yes, absolutely. You should know your data. You should own your data. I think that's without dispute, but you should know all the data. So here's what I think, and I want you to tell me if you agree or disagree. And I want to have a conversation at this. I think that the most important hires and we talk about where agencies are going to be in the next couple years. I think one of the most important hires, if you're looking at your agency as an organizational structure, I really think that, it's a circle, right? With the radius. The radius is the same no matter where you're at in the circle. And in the middle, that middle spoke is the CEO, it's the principal, it's the agency owner. And they're making that whole flywheel move. But I also think on each endpoint, you've got to have specific people in your agency moving forward. And I think this is going to be the difference between agencies that really thrive and survive going forward and those that are going to kind of be phased out, and for lack of better words, or really struggle, never really get traction. I think they need to hire a real marketer, and there's no order of importance here. I think they all work together in that radius. But they need to have a real marketer. They need to have somebody who really understands marketing, technology, copywriting, tactics, strategy, how to grow. And I also think that agencies need to hire the equivalent of a chief revenue officer, somebody who's going to, or a sales manager, somebody who's going to really work with marketing and bring in sales, bring in revenue to the agency. But I also think on that other part, and everybody works together, is there needs to be somebody who really is in charge of data analytics. And somebody who's really going to be focused on knowing these metrics and giving this information, boiling it all down, giving it to marketing so marketing can craft better messages, giving it to their sales team or the people in charge of driving revenue so that they can sell more and sell better, but then also presenting it to the CEO, the principal, so they don't have to sit there and dive in, okay, what does this report say? And come up with all these percentage points. That's where I think that the agencies are really going to need to go. I think it's going to get tougher for 1- and 2-man, 3-man shops or woman shops. We are politically correct here on the Better Podcast, but it's going to get tougher for those agencies because they're not going to have the marketing edge. They're not going to have the data edge. They're having to spin all these plates, and that's going to make them inefficient. It's going to make them like a wheel in the mud. I think the agencies need to start focusing on and looking for people who they can bring into the marketing team, bring into driving revenue, but then also bring into their agency whose their sole responsibility, their sole job is to know the numbers, know how to optimize those numbers, know where the deficiencies are, know where they can scale, and then present that information to the rest of the team. What are your thoughts on that?
Seen Cass write down 4 times. Cass, those ideas are spoken for, bro.
No, this is really good. I mean, God, this is a really good conversation. A lot of time I have a lot of the same conversations, and this really has me spurring. So when you first said what would be the thing that you would hire, okay, I wrote down my thing here. I've got an article that I'm working on. It's called it has a name yet, but it's going to be something like the Temporary CIO. I believe that the CIOs, and I've talked to a couple of them right now, that they work for large 2,000 person agencies, and they're like data scientists basically.
These are the kids that you put in lockers in high school and, duct taped to trees. These are the people who just live and breathe by the numbers. These are your accountants and your CPAs of data.
And we're not going to be able to hire them. So the only way we're going to be able to do that is you're going to have temporary ones. You're going to have CEO or CIOs that will sit in on your meetings for 2 or 3 hours, and you're going to pay them a retainer. Okay. Something like that.
It's a fractional. Yeah.
Yeah. There's going to have to be something like that. One of the things that, where we're going to go with this on the end of what you're saying is can they make it? You're going to have a big split between personal lines and commercial lines. I think the days of those two being in the same house are going to come to end. I'm not going to say in the next 3 to 5 years. I'm going to say within 10 years, you're going to see those come to end. We're going to have to start being professionals. We're going to have to start independently. Rather than answering the phone, we're here for all your insurance needs. No doctor answers the phone and says, hey, how can we help you with your heart, your feet, your toes, your knees? What do you need? We do it all. No, nobody does that. You don't call a lawyer and they say, so what happened yesterday? Was it a divorce? Did you get hit? You got a work comp claim? What do you got, a lawsuit? We do them all. No one does that. Why do we consider them professionals? Because we know that they have our best interest at heart, because they're not going to literally try to get money from us. They're trying to provide us a solution. Okay. So that's the key there. So I think you're going to start to see personal lines is a rat race, and you're going to have to lock down and be living on analytics. I mean, totally.
Well, you have to, because the margins are so small. The margin of error is so small. You've got to be
squeeze them out. So it's going to squeeze them out. And then on the commercial side, I'm going to be able to use, and I say me because that's more my angle, I'm going to be able to use a lot more analytics to get me to the information that I need to get in front of the person I need. A lot of that, though, in my opinion, will be slower to come, it's not going to be a rat race, and you're not going to, because your margins aren't so slim, but also that type of scenario, there's new age tactics, but a lot of it's still the same. It's still calling them. It's still meeting them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So board meetings, presentations, proposals, all these things, dealing with the board.
Yeah, you can't have those two. That's two different agents. It's what's going to see. So that's where I think that you're going to have to. I agree with you, dude. I think the CIO is going to be huge. Our next hires would be that, but once again, we're more commercial focused. We want a senior account manager, one more producer, and then I would hire probably a director of operations. The director of operations allows me to.
We did that at Good Vibe Squad, and dude, it was. I mean,
well, that's what takes you to Pensacola.
That's a huge role.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. I mean, here's where it boils down to. And it's part of my frustration over the last 12 or 18 months of this really big buzzword of data. I've gotten to the point where I get really annoyed when I hear people talk about it, because it's become such a cliche word. Something that's so important becomes such a cliche word. And you have a lot of people, in my estimation, and look, I'm not trying to, pontificate or try to put myself on any sort of pedestal, but I hear these people talk about it and I go, you have no business talking about this. You know nothing about what you're just saying it because it sounds good. And that's just a personal pet peeve of mine.
Well,
I agree, dude. I agree. I'm just laughing because you said it.
I think this is the thing though, Nick, and this is the interesting thing. If you look at this, everybody's crying, I want two-way integration. I want two-way integration, right? And it's interesting because it's like, they don't understand that blessing, that's a double-edged sword, right? It has a curse to it as well. we lived in this age where, the compression of the industry while all other industries were innovating. I mean, let's be honest. We've had kind of some political things that we were like the Cuba during the trade embargo. This industry was like, we were
just broke up. He said, Cuba.
Yeah. 6 to midnight. So the problem was that we didn't have that innovation, and everybody would get upset at that. But that innovation gave us a bubble of comfort too, because it was kind of the good old days. We didn't have these factors for like outside industries did that were making it so, you guys talk about the margins are so small. Remember how the margins like commissions used to be like 20%, like on a lot of carriers and stuff like that. Like they were just higher and we were paid more and stuff like that. Like those were standards. Well, then commissions started to get reduced, right? People didn't like that. You guys start talking about margin slimming. That's, I mean, we see that heavily in the captive space. Farmers just took another rate, commission decrease. Like these kind of pressures happen. Well, the increase of technology is going to decrease some components of the human element, right? And the downfall of that is people don't recognize, I want all of this technology. That technology has a cost, right? And there will be some that leverage it 10 to 1. And there will be a lot of people that go under its tires the other direction. And so it's like, we're kind of going from a vacuum chamber into an atmosphere of our own with the new technology and everything that we have. And I think it's very important for people to understand, like, this is something that we can't at this point stop. The train can't stop moving. We really need to hop on it. Now, what that looks like for everybody's a little bit different, but I think it's important for people to get out of their own way. And I'm going to tie this back to what you were just saying, Nick, where people need to start hiring marketers and stuff like that. Like the agent that's listening, the agency owner that's listening to this going, you know what? I do need to hire a marketer. I want you to shatter your perspective on what you think you need to look for. I'm a marketer, right? I've done this for a few years. I don't have a college degree. I actually didn't graduate high school. I don't talk about that a lot. I paid one of my teachers $40 to let me walk. I bought the cap. I bought the gown. I faked the whole process, and I used that to lie my way into college, which I then dropped out of. I'm a marketer. I am not what you would consider a traditionally educated person. So you need to stop looking in your regular avenues, your regular channels. If you're hiring a marketer from a local community college that has a business and marketing 2-year degree.
Well, they do it because they want to save a few bucks. They're trying to.
Well, being cheap is expensive.
But also what you're saying here at the end is they don't make that person today. In our education system, they just don't make that person.
Well, not only do they not make that person, somebody, you start talking about the CIOs, you start talking about the marketers, right? And you will see this. You'll see fractional marketers. We have a fractional CFO in our marketing agency. It's been fantastic. Like there's the stigma of like fractional anything is bad. I think it's fantastic.
I've never heard of fractional. We're not cool like you West Coasters here in.
So fractional, you have it. Like you talked about like a part-time CIO. It would be called
makes sense now. I just had never heard called
right.
That. Cool.
It's a person who specializes in that one thing. They do that one thing. They do it very well, and they do it for a few people, right? And so, but the cool thing about it is they're in, they do their job, they're out, right? It's like, wow, that was fast. That was efficient.
We hired one for ThriveSure. They're an insurance CFO, fractional CFO service, and they are great R&D advisory out of New York, and they're just great. So
they're like a fractional person that has, and really, if you're looking at fractional, all you got to do is look, do they already have work, and have they been doing it for a little bit? Because a fractional person can't afford to survive if they're not doing a good job, because that's all they do, right? So the interesting thing is you'll start seeing fractional marketers, fractional CIOs, like you said, fractional CFOs. Like those are going to become the standard. You don't necessarily have to have it in-house. But this is the thing that you have to understand about that personality type. I and most marketers like me need autonomy. As much as we need the money, we need autonomy. So you can't have us come in, sit at a desk, sit behind a computer talking about, no, it's like you're gonna notice part of that is there's a component that where you're probably gonna have to relinquish some control, right? Like there's gonna be differences in how you hire these people, because like if they wanted to do the traditional route, they would have. But most of those people are kind of rogue in a degree. And I'm not saying all of them are, but like
you're dirty and scummy like Preston.
you're gonna have to open up like your mind about what these roles look like, right? It's just something that I would highly advocate, because if you're trying to fit the bill of what you think this person has been or should be compared to what this person actually is or will be, you're going to be disappointed. You're always going to be you're going to be chasing something, and by the time that you finally get it, the whole thing's changed. And so it's really important to be open to that, because market, like I know a lot of wonderful marketers, and I think that they would like to have a consistent gig. However, the expectations that are put on a marketer are very, from a marketer's perspective, unconventional. Like, I don't need to be in an office. Like, I don't need to be
unrealistic too.
It's unrealistic. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great conversation, dude. I had really never thought of that. And fractional. I like that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, getting back to this whole, does it bother you, Jason, as much as it bothers me when I hear all this data just become this buzzword, and it becomes watered down? And when I hear people talk about it, I go, here's how I equate it. We talk about data like I talked about really hot women when I was 13 years old. In this sense, I'm a 13-year-old boy, and I'm dreaming about, the most amazing woman on the planet. And anybody who had any sense, who was older than me, would have looked at me and said, Nick, you wouldn't know what to do with it if you got it.
Yeah.
And that's how I think most insurance agents are treating data, right? We're saying we need data.
You could say it to Nick of yesterday.
Dude, you got to send that clip right there to my team at AI, dude. That was fabulous, right?
Well,
there.
it's like agents are sitting there thinking about, I need my data. I want to own my data, and I need this data to do this. And God bless them. They're right. They're not wrong.
Right.
But my first thought is you wouldn't know what to do with it if you had it.
You wouldn't. I'm gonna agree with you on that. But I'm also
that's why I say you need to hire somebody who that's what they do.
Yes.
Well, I think we need to challenge people to think, like, actually sit down, get rid of the devices, grab a pad of paper, and write down, what do you want your data to do for you? This is actually an interesting point. Like, I'm obviously chief product officer at Better Agency. I have a lot of these discussions about product and what people want and things like that. And I hear the cries from the people. We want integrations. And I say, all right, cool. You want integration. How do you want it? Well, we want a two-way integration. Okay, cool. What do you want it to do for you? Well, integrate. Okay. What do you want to integrate? Two ways. What do you want to go two ways? Crickets. And it's like, guys, like it's like, I think there's an element to that too, where it's like, we want to get excited, but it's like, there are now.
I don't want to leave my management system and go into Better Agency and have Better Agency and come back in. That's what I mean by two-way. And I think that's what a lot of people mean.
Right. But it's like specifically what functions, you know what I mean? There's that's a blanket statement. You might not need it all.
You used to be an insurance agent though. So that's why you guys are good at what you do, is because you're able to like actually hear that dude say, well, I need two-way. And you say, why? And he says, I don't know. That's what Jason said. And you're like, well, don't listen to Jason here. Let me tell you why you may or not need it. And that's why I think that you guys are good.
Well, but this is also, and thank you on that. But this is the other side of that coin. And I just want to challenge people. You're starting to have tech companies like Better Agency that want to listen, that want to help you. Right. And I don't think we're alone in that. I mean, we've seen Tarmica, they've moved fast. They're pretty open. Lightspeed Voice is always an open ear to people in the phone space. Right. So there's definitely allies in this tech space that are advocates of the independent agency owner and the users within their offices. What I want people to do, what would be very beneficial to you, the listener of this, is if you could actually, we want to hear it and we want to help, but if you could come to us with better questions too. Right. It's like we get asked a lot of things. We get asked for a lot of things. And I want to help you change your life. I want to create. I think
part of it comes down to, you've got to know what problems you're actually trying to solve.
100%.
Okay. So let me answer Nicholas's question about the data. There's two places to look at data. You can look at it as a practical and functional way, which is what we're talking about here. I wouldn't even know what to do with most of it. I admit it right now. I mean, I would be like, okay, they show me things on Neon and they'll put new things into our dashboard and I'll go, holy shit, I didn't even freaking realize that would be a good idea, right? So there's got to be people smarter than me. Cass looks at it and gets excited for it on a monetary issue. I get excited based on the fact that you can sell it. I mean, it's being sold for a lot. I mean, lots and lots and lots. I just bought, maybe some of you heard me say this before, I just bought a new TV. Ironically, it went out right before Thanksgiving. I mean, that's good luck, right? If your TV's going to go out. My wife thought that I got an app and put it on the damn TV to make it go out. I swear. Anyways, so I go buy this TV. I mean, I'm looking at this TV that's total 120. I mean, it's the top of the line, and I'm gonna walk out with it for like $780. Now it could have been like $900 if it wasn't because of the holiday, but I'm walking out with it for around $800. And I'm thinking this TV would have been so much more. They want to give those things away to you. They want to give them away for the cost because they want to sell the data that you use in that device. Now, there's a lot of people saying, well, you wouldn't know what to do if you had a TV, if you had all that stuff. No, I wouldn't, but that's not why I get excited about it. But 99% of the people out there, you're right, Nicholas, they don't have a damn clue what they're going to do with it. And I really have never driven it down that hard. As far as data, I know that I have data. And if I can create and have a different type of net to create different data, not phone numbers. That's category of data. I'm talking behavioral data out there so that how did I get that phone number? When did I get that phone number?
Well, those TVs are good for that.
When I can get that information and I can autonomize it and bring it together and aggregate it with thousands of other agents, insurance companies want to buy that. Other industries want to buy that. Coca-Cola wants to buy that. That is a powerful thing.
Has there been a use case? And I'm not challenging this or disputing. I hear this a lot that people want to sell the data. My question is sell to who? And you mentioned insurance companies and other third party companies. Has there ever been a use case that you know of where Nationwide, Progressive, Travelers, they've gone and they've done that? Has there been any precedent where they've bought that from an insurance agent, or are you saying that this is going to open that door for that?
I'll answer it both ways. It's opening the door and the door is open. There has not, the use cases are, the companies are waiting to get the data.
I'm just wondering what the market on that is. Like,
it would probably be like a Brown and Brown or something. Like, it would have to be a large agency because, like, data without, like, small data pools aren't valuable. You need a lot of data to be able to scale it. And so, I mean, that's
100 agencies, 100 agencies.
Right. If you can aggregate it, that's a different story.
Or make up 700 million.
I was just trying to give context to people who might be watching or listening, because I think that was always been a kind of a confusing point to me, is people would say, well, I want to sell the data. And I'd go, cool. To who? Right. Like, who buys it? You know? Yeah,
well, that market's coming, right? It's not like hey, the market's here now, let's build something. That's where I think that this stuff is very intuitive. It is right up the thing. And yes, there are a lot of things that I know that I can't tell right now, or I'd have people shoot me as soon as this thing goes live. But
so tell us, Jason.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Yeah, I know. You don't want to get hurt. It's just that it's going to be, I think the industry is being transformed right now. Going back to the very beginning of what we talked about, we're all in this. Man, I'm telling you, man, if you took us in 2010 and dropped us right now in 2020, we would be like, what is going on?
Not even close.
It would just be wild. And I'm talking just in our industry. I'm not talking about the world, right? Which would be crazy. But dude, it would be unbelievable. So
your question on your podcast back then would be like, all right, Nick, first question, Palm Pilot or
BlackBerry?
BlackBerry, go.
Okay. So let me also talk about the monetary collision. You're right. That is a good one. So right now we have manufacturers that then sell to wholesalers who then sell to retailers. It's starting to already happen. These systems that are out there and that are being created are going to be the manufacturers. So the manufacturer is actually the agent, but the reason why I say they're the manufacturer is because they're the one aggregating all of it and putting it into a way that can then be sold to the wholesaler.
They're the assembly line.
Which is going to be a third-party company who's going to come along and say, I don't want to create all the infrastructure to get all that data, so I'll just latch on to that company, and then I'll grab that data and wholesale it out to our retailer who
they
now
package it and put it on the pallet.
And so what it does is that data now starts to come through. So you can see company A is giving to B and company B is giving to C, because C doesn't want to put in all the R&D that company A did. But once you pull it out of the ground, why do you got to do that, right? Let's just divvy it up. So I think this monetizing of data, that's what excites me. That's what gets me. Besides the fact, it does give me some pretty cool ass dashboards. I mean,
well, and that's nice.
Really
so I'm actually curious too, because that by itself, Jason, I think only your massive aid, because like honestly, you're going to get a fraction of the sale, right? And you're not going to get all of it, obviously. Whoever's wholesaling that data is going to take a cut, right? So I'm just imagining this kind of like eBay. eBay takes a fee, right? So it's going to be like that. And so when you're auctioning this data off, it's going to be it's just like a bonus when you're part of an aggregator, right? Where you had 100 policies with Safeco, you're going to get your share of that overall bonus, right? And so what you just talked about, monetizing the data for actual monetary gain, not monetizing it as a sales tool. That's something only larger agencies can really get excited about,
or larger agency groups.
Right. So my question to you though, and I want to pose this to you on an individual basis and like an actual practical for your own situation. How do you get excited about monetizing the data that you have within a system like yours? In everyday situations. Now, I'm not talking about selling the data. I'm talking about leveraging the data to help you increase the actual revenue driver that you currently have, which is selling policies and premium. How are you leveraging the data in a way that everybody can benefit from individually, regardless of their size?
Me specifically in my agency.
Yeah. How are you leveraging data in your agency to help you increase sales and premium?
Well, first of all, okay, so I got a couple things, but I want to let you know that it's been different since July, since I've been on with Neon, Salesforce, Varuna. Okay, shit is like night and day. One of the deals, I don't know how me and my team say this all the time. Actually, all the Neon pilot agents do and their staff. We don't know how we kept shit straight before this type of a system. When you have things in cases and opportunities, I don't want to go down that road. But whenever I'm able to see cases and see everything that's going on in my agency, actually everything that's going on, and seeing how many auto changes we have open still that we're still working, how long they've been open, who's working them, why is it taking so long? Why, when that person's working out of the house versus working in my office, is it different, right? Because I think there's something that I know people think that I'm nuts when I say this stuff, but it's just the way that I think.
We like you because you're nuts.
I know. Sometimes the way that we look at, sometimes we chase shiny objects. Sometimes we're looking at things. When Jason Cass is making decisions, I'm trying to make decisions if I need something to make me productive or if I need something to make me efficient. Those are the only two things that I really care about. Okay. Now I do care about other stuff, but at the high level, because efficiency is when I can do the same thing I'm doing now with less people.
Right. Less resources. Right.
Less resources, money, less people, whatever. As opposed to productivity is where I'm going to do more, but with the same amount of people. Right. And so when I look at this, I'm looking at data to say, and that's what a lot of people don't do when they're looking at it. Am I using better agency because I want to sell more? Because that's more productive, which means that I need to be able to keep the same people, or am I using it to become more efficient, more on my service side, right? To where I can do more, but I don't need to hire any more people, because that's going to tell me where I'm going with that. And I'm going to hopefully be able to then start to use data to amplify that using some of the characteristics that I'm trying to get now. But the ones that we have today, that's in the next year, the ones we have today, cases and opportunities, and allowing me to, here's the other thing. When I send an email to my carriers, it now times how long it takes for them to get that email back to me. I can now say, like, why are all these underwriters returning this back to me in an hour and a half? But dude, nationwide, it takes your service team 2 days to get back to me. And actually, I can tell you exactly how long that took to get back to me. Mm-hmm. The last thing that I think that we're going to see, which is huge, and I'm still staying in your question, Preston, is I want to summarize that last point for the listener. What Jason's talking about is the data in that example allows for accountability between an agency principal and their staff, and an agency and their carrier partners. That's exactly right. Yes. Nobody is over anybody anymore. We're all on the same level playing field. That's what data does for the independent insurance agency. It puts us on the same level playing field as the carriers and the vendors. Now they can't say, oh, I mean, the vendors, your vendors have, you guys know this, I'm just talking to the audience, but our vendors have always been keeping track of things that we're doing, right? They already know things about us that we don't. And our carriers, they're dealing with a customer that we deal with too. So it's like we both are married to the same person, but we don't get to know each other, what each other are doing. And this is kind of weird, kind of lets everybody know what they're doing with the data. But I think that whenever you are taking this data on a productive or efficient level, that's where it's going to help me more. I feel as if I can be a lot more efficient, specifically with cases and opportunities. Opportunities are more sales driven, so it'd be more cases. But I can be with cases. Allows me to say, can we use the same amount of can we get the same amount done but with less people? Yeah. And that's been proven true. With Marble Box, I had 4 people. Now I only have 2. I've been able to drive that in ways that I couldn't drive that stuff before, to see how many cases is this person doing versus this person.
Well, and that relationship between efficiency and productivity it's kind of like, it's when one goes up, the other one can as well. So, when they're very parallel. So if you're more efficient, you have more resources to devote to whatever you want, which can increase productivity, or you could essentially put that back in the bank.
It's called protoficient. There's actually no word. I've looked it up on Google. I've spelled it 6 ways. So it's a word that Cass created.
Protoficient.
It's where you get more by doing less with less. That's the difference.
No, and that's good. And so, you had mentioned something about opportunities and you were like, well, that would actually be cases, but I would actually beg to differ. One of the things that we've seen with Better Agency that's been really cool is we've seen people, like with our opportunities and the way that our sales pipeline and everything functions, is the level of automated support it provides an agency is not only does it increase the scale of sales that they're able to achieve, but they are actually doing far less than they've ever had to do before. And so you can, if you get the right workflow, you can actually do more in less. Like that's a very realistic reality, and that's one of the things I love. Like I was saying earlier, if you leverage the right technology and the right data, you're going to have, you have the potential for a 10 to 1 multiplier or greater. That is not, that kind of scale is not
I want you guys to honor me a little bit, would you? I mean, I just need it. Create a process with Better Agency and then name it like the protoficient process, right? Where you're doing more with less.
Make a deal. We'll do that, but you've got to be a Better Agency user.
All right, that's tough. I can't. So yeah. But,
no, we're just kidding.
Can I say something to that? Can I say something?
I think one day you're going to have to be.
Can I say something to that? That is actually going to happen, and it's going to happen relatively soon. Travis and I were talking about this 2 weeks ago, because with Neon, you have the Neon Marketing Cloud, and then you have Base. It's awesome. But you guys wrote an article, like, what is it? Driving the Ferrari to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, this is like driving the $500 million yacht to the next door neighbors. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's so awesome. But dude, it's a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money. It's not the Neon one. It's just the one that you're getting from Salesforce, but then it's been adapted for Neon, right? Sure. It's a lot of money. I'm not saying that has to be a huge driver, but when we're looking at what we do for our agency for going after whales, and we need some of that automated marketing on the personal line side to just kind of automate that, Better Agency is probably where we're going to go. There's no doubt about it. I think that's a fantastic spot to put a capital or a period on that.
You've heard it here first. Jason Cass is going Better Agency, folks.
No, it's going to hook into my Varuna.
Absolutely, hook into something. So
Salesforce.
Jason Cass, I want to tell you, thank you so much for being on the Better Podcast today. I think this was a riveting conversation. I think anybody who listens to it, you're going to come out, hopefully not, you're going to come out less confused. You're going to come out with a plan. You're going to figure out, okay, this is where my agency needs to go in the future. If I'm going to survive and thrive as an agency owner in this industry that is ever changing, I've got to survive and thrive and change myself. So thank you so much for being on the Better Podcast. Preston, any last words?
No, Jason, it's always a pleasure, man. We had a lot of fun in this hour.
We did. All right, guys, make sure if you're not subscribed that you subscribe to the Better Agency Podcast. You can do so on any of the popular podcast channels, or if you're watching here on YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel, and we will see you on the next episode.